It certainly is game, set and match for the world #1 Novak Djokovic. He is set to be deported from Australia. He's lost his second appeal against the cancellation of his visa that was in the federal court today. Djokovic's lawyers challenged the immigration minister's use of his executive powers to revoke the Serbian's visa. Now, this was on the grounds of health and good order and on the basis that it was in the public interest to do so. To speak more on this, as he's done over the last couple of days, we're joined by tennis expert Bruce Davidson. A very good morning to you, Bruce, and thank you once again for joining us here on eNCA. So, fair to say that we saw this coming, yeah?
Definitely saw this coming. We know the Australians work. I think they were very fair in giving, the legal system was very fair in giving Djokovic the opportunities he had, but that is a proper legal system. But the Chief Justice Aslop today, with a bench of 3 high-end judges, made that decision to stand by the immigration minister's ruling and for Djokovic to be deported as soon as possible. So he will be flying out tonight, and apparently he is being detained until he is escorted to catch his flight out of the country. So he is now being treated as a normal rogue would that entered Australia on the wrong terms.
He's not the most likable athlete in the world, Bruce. I mean, a lot of people don't appreciate his temper tantrums on court. I mean, the fact that he's hitting tennis balls that are striking line judges in the throat, that, you know, he's seemingly somebody that doesn't know how to be approachable, you know, but nevertheless, he is one of the greatest tennis players to ever play this game. So the Australian Open is going to lose.
The Australian Open does lose, but we've heard from so many different players that the show must go on, and it's not just about Novak Djokovic, it's about the Grand Slam taking place, the first Grand Slam of the year. There are 124 other top-end male players in the draw. 20 of the, well, now 17 of the top 20 are in Melbourne. So it's not just about one player, as Nadal said. It's about the game. The game is bigger than a player. And so the show will go on. And the show must go on like this for the next 3 years, because the deportation ruling says that he is banned for 3 more years. So he's going to fight that, definitely, because he can't afford not to come to Australia for another 3 years and not play in the Australian Open. That, at his age, could cripple his chances of cementing himself as the greatest player ever to have lived.
There are 3 other Grand Slams, though, Bruce. Surely he can get to number 21 at Wimbledon. I mean, the French Open, we do know, is touch and go for him, considering that the King of Clay is still playing. And then there's the US Open, which is another hard court surface. So he can get to 21, and in fact, even 22, if not 23, this year.
I'm not doubting that he can beat the record that he holds with Roger Federer and Rafael Nadal. It's just that this puts a huge setback to him winning a golden Grand Slam, where you win all 4 slams in 1 calendar year. That to him is a huge target. And Australian Open has always been his favourite Grand Slam. He's won it 9 times before. He dominates down in Melbourne. And I think there's going to be an attitude now that this ruling has finally been made amongst a lot of tournaments around the world, including some big Grand Slams, despite them already, before the judgment was made, having made, in my opinion, silly remarks by, "We will welcome you with open arms." Of course they're going to want to welcome him. He's the world #1. He's a huge crowd puller. He's a huge TV puller. But it's going to be very different. How are the people now going to perceive him? Because now the judgment has been made. And this is going to be an interesting turn of events in the next couple of months, how the world of tennis and world of sport handle top-end sportsmen when it comes to the bats.
You've been in conversation with the Australian Open tournament director, Craig Tiley, over the course of this entire saga. I don't know if you've spoken to him today following this ruling. What's his thinking?
Well, I did send a message to Craig, and he said to me before the judgment was weighed, it's not looking good for Djokovic, so that was the writing on the wall for me. I haven't spoken to Craig yet. This is breaking news within the last hour. Craig's going to be very busy now trying to sort out the lucky loser that has to take Djokovic's place in the draw, have a chat to him, get the mindset right, because this has moved a lot of players like Ilman Feast, Andre Rublev around in the draw, and the show's got to go on. He was scheduled to play on Monday, last match on centre court after Ashley Barty. The world number one was playing her match, so they have got some time to organise. It's late in Melbourne now, but a lot has to be done. There's a lot of juggling that's got to be done, and obviously Craig Tiley now has to speak to a lot of media, so he's not going to easily speak to Bruce Davidson.
No, of course, that's very true. Bruce, just before we let you go, the French Open organisers, the Wimbledon organisers and the US Open organisers will definitely have been watching this very closely, pondering as to how it is they're going to approach their Grand Slams, you know, with vaccines and the COVID-19 pandemic, something that's going to be living with us for a while. There are no mandates in those countries as things stand. Do you see that changing?
I don't know if it's going to change. There's lukewarm reception to this compulsory vaccination element in the tennis circles. We've seen this now unfold in Australia. I know the ATP, the ITF, and the WTA, the three biggest controlling bodies of tennis, have a Thursday meeting in Melbourne to discuss this. All the big shots from all of those organisations and their executives will be in Melbourne for this very important two-day conference. And I think from that, we will hear more of how the slams and the ATP Tour and the WTA Tour are going to manage their circuits going forward.